Hi folks, Travis Fox here with FoxOptic.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at a very exciting product that Pulsar has just came out with. It's their first high definition 1024-768 unit. This is going to be in the Merger XL binocular. 2,500 yard detection range with that 1024-768 sensor. That's up till now, the biggest thing we've seen them with is a 640-480, so you're talking about 307,200 thermistors on a 640-480, where the 724 or 1024 by 768 is going to push us up to 786,000 and change. So about 2.56 times as many thermistors, which will give you an idea of the versatility they can pack into this. So what we're going to see, 14-degree starting field of view on a 50-millimeter unit model. Previously, like in an XP50, we would have been starting at 12.4, so a slight increase in field of view, but you're going to see a major increase in your identification range, because with that higher resolution you're able to capture more detail in the image, and the higher detail you have initially, the more you can zoom, or the more effectively you're stretching those pixels up, you have richer information, you're able to to show that better in the zoom. So very feature rich unit. We're going to go through some of the details. I'll walk you through that here in a minute. We'll be right back with you. Okay, we're going to take a look at these things. I'm going to run you through kind of the functions of them. So back here on the back, we have independent eyepieces, obviously, with independent displays. You have diopter adjustment on each one of the eyepieces independently, so that's going to allow you to focus your eyes to the displays inside there uniquely. And then you also have an inner pupillary adjustment, which allows you to slide these eyepieces horizontally in and out to account for the distance between your eyes. Plus we have a little prox sensor back here on the back that's going to sense whether your face is up against them. Effectively, if your face is off of them, it'll put them into screensaver mode. That'll keep the processor hot, but you won't get that light spilling out of the display. So that's a pretty slick function, especially if you're running off a tripod like this, say via the app, running StreamVision off to a smart device. You don't get that light spilling out, on you or something that's around them while you're viewing on that thing. So in other words, when the prox sensor shuts them off, you could still see on the app what's going on through the sensor, just like you were looking into the displays and they were actively on, but it'll shut the light coming out of those eyepieces off. So that's a really cool feature. Up here on the front, we have focus. I'm going to go ahead and jump inside of them here and hit record, so you can kind of see, there I'm recording that shagbark hickory. I've got them focused on that. If I start adjusting the focus, you can see where I start coming back towards me, and if I come this way, I'm adjusting focus back into the field behind that point. So, we've got a really good range of focus. You can get really good clarity and take maximal advantage of that 1024-768 sensor. So basically, I'm just going to run you through the button functions here real quick. We'll start back here in the back. Short press on that back button, this is your menu button, is going to bring up the quick menu. Additional short presses will toggle you between the menu items. If you just let off of that for a while, it'll go away on its own. I'll come back in another video. I've got some other videos with regards to those menus, so I'm not going to get real in depth with it. But long press here is going to bring your main menu up on the left-hand side. You're going to be able to use these up-down arrow keys to select between the different menu items. You can see that you've got 2 pages of them in there. So basically, you've got a long press and a short press function on all the buttons. So this is your menu button. Again, short press for the quick menu, and then long press is going to turn around and bring up your main menu. So there you can see my short press brings up the quick menu, and again, long press the main menu. If you want to get it to go a little bit quicker or go way quicker, you can long press that. The next button here in the middle is going to be, the short press is going to be your amplification mode changes. So basically, if you look down there kind of at the bottom, you see what looks like a little stop sign symbol, and it says H for high. If I short press that, it'll go to ultra. Short press it, it takes me to normal. Short press it again, now I'm back in high. That's going to essentially change some of your mode algorithms with regards to the gradient and the way the gradient's being used by the processor to produce the image. So if you're not real copacetic with how to adjust brightness and contrast, that can be a quick way to get some changes in your image to try to get a more desired look out of your image without having to know how to make some of those adjustments. You know, it's kind of a user-friendly way to adjust them. Long press on that button is going to let me flip color palettes. So in this particular case, I've got black hot selected as my secondary color palette. So I'm going to invert between black hot and white hot. And you can see there's a little circle down there in the lower left that indicates that to me. And then up here at the front, we have our zooming button. So if I do short presses, I'm going to step zoom in doubling increments. So I go 2.5 to 5 to 10 to 20, and then back down to 2.5. If I initiate with a long press on that button, I'm going to turn on the PIP function. The PIP has to be double the base screen. So you can see there where it's at 5x, and if I do short presses, I'm going to double in it, so 5, 10, 20. The base screen, the main portion of the lower screen, is always going to be base magnification, which in the case of this XL is 2.5x. So the PIP, anywhere from 5 to 20. I can also infinitely adjust that, or the main screen by doing a short press on the menu button and going right here in the quick menu to this little smooth zooming function. So if I short press here while that's active on the screen and use my up down arrow keys, you can see where I can adjust that in 0.1 increments. Again, another long press up here in the front is going to shut that PIP function back off, and you can see when the PIP function shuts off, I'm at the zoom that was set in the PIP in my main screen. So then if I want to adjust that, you know, just step zoom through it again. Okay, over here on the other side, we have the power button up here at the front. So the power button, when you're in, you know, when you're just in a regular viewing mode, if you short press that, and what I'm calling a short press is like taking a picture on a camera, just press and release. You know, and so what I'll call a long press is basically a press and hold. So if you just press and release that button, you're going to force a calibration, and so, or what they'll call a nuke, which just stands for non-uniformity correction. So in this particular case, I'm in semi-automatic mode. You can see it down there at the bottom. So I'm in charge of when it's going to calibrate by pushing that blue button. And so short press on that. If I was to long press that button, then I'm going to turn around and initiate the sleep mode, which honestly in these, not as big of a deal with that prox sensor. So, you know, but if you did want to force them into sleep mode, you could hold that button, that power button down until you get the 3, 2, 1 countdown timer, and just before it gets down to 0 or, you know, goes black on you and you release like you wanted to shut them off entirely, just drop off of it at any point and it'll put it in the screensaver mode. So next button back here is your recording button. Can't really hit that right at the moment because I'm recording and it's going to pause it if I hit it. But if you was to hit that with a short press right now, I would get a pause symbol up there in the upper left, and the video would pause, and then I could get it to take off again by hitting it again. And if I wanted to stop and save the video, I could just do a long press on that. If I initiate before I'm recording with a long press on that button, then I'm going to switch from video mode to camera mode. And if I'm in camera mode, short presses are going to work just like a camera. It's just going to take still shots. The next one down here is our laser rangefinder. So if I hit the laser rangefinder button, a short press, I'll just get it to come on and activate it. I need to follow up with an additional press to get it to take a yardage for me. And so I'll just take a couple of different varying yardages kind of down through some of this stuff. And then if I want to, either while that's on the screen, hold down on that, I can put them into scan mode. You can see there where it just stays on the screen and I don't have to push the button. Or if I want to turn it off, I can long press that to shut it off. But if I start here with nothing on the screen and just initiate with the long press, I can put them directly into scan mode. So a pretty intuitive layout. And again, to shut that scan mode off, just a long press on that button. So I think that's going to seem a little bit complicated. That's why I'm going to cut kind of right there and not go way into the menus. I'll do that later on uniquely. But you can see that there's a lot of functionality there, and while it might seem a bit intimidating at first, very intuitive. It doesn't take you very long at all. The layout is very natural with the, you know, basically a fingertip on each button. You'll pick up on it very quickly. They're very, very intuitive and easy to operate. All right, we're gonna jump over and I'm gonna show you some footage that I've taken through these so you can get an idea of what to expect. We'll be right back with you. Okay, so here we got a raccoon, obviously up in the tree. I just was trying to show you how well these things would actually zoom. In the case of this particular item, you know, we've got a pretty good thermal contrast because he's obviously only about, I think in this case was about maybe 40 yards from me. But you can see the detail when the thing's in focus there. I know I'm shaking around a little bit, but trying to make sure I had them focused as good as I could do so that it, you know, what I'm showing you is representative of what they're able to do. There I did a calibration, just wanting to make sure that I've got them dialed in to give you the fairest or kind of the most honest look at what they're capable of if everything is set right. So there at 20x you can see, get pretty good clarity. Up through the tree, no problem at all picking up the heat signal as he's going to move around here on the limbs. You know, you can see where anytime that his heat breaks one of the gaps in through the leaves, very easy to pick that signal up. Now as he gets over here into the denser leaves, you know, then obviously we're going to lose the signal because there's no gaps for it to come through. Here we were filming another location. I'd actually had a raccoon out in the field in front of me, and this guy kind of caught me out of surprise. He was coming up, he was actually on a gravel road on the other side coming up there. Oh, I think it was about 140 or 150 yards over there. I think I'm going to range it here in a minute. But this was a fox, and as he's working his way up through there, I couldn't tell it at first, but as he got up there a little bit further, can't really see it in this portion of the video, but it become pretty apparent that I could see that he had something in his mouth. I think maybe had a baby rabbit or something like that in his mouth as he was working up through there. I think maybe you can see that a little bit better here. I had to reposition to get into it so I could keep spinning to the left. I was set up on a tripod facing forward. But anyway, you know, you can see there as I kind of spun around and spin the pallets where maybe I could have done a contrast and brightness adjustment to clean things up a little bit. But, you know, the unfortunate truth is you don't get to do those things sometimes on the fly. But, you know, it's one of those things where pretty representative of what it's going to look like. Now this one here, this was a raccoon. He's back there. I'm going to guess, you'll see here where I range it in a minute, and the range, I get kind of one range, I think, off the ground in front of him and then hit maybe the tree line behind me. But I think he was right at 500 yards. And it's really hard to tell from the video, but in the eyepieces, I could clearly tell that was a raccoon without any problem at all. You'll see when I zoom in a minute here, you can kind of make the detail, but when I was zoomed back, my eye was able to pick up enough detail in the displays that I certainly could make identification. Like I had no problem knowing it was a raccoon versus a possum, and that's just pretty phenomenal at that distance. I've never seen another thermal device capable of that. So here we've got another raccoon. We're here where I'm at in the Midwest. We're getting more and more and more of the numbers just keep going up on them, so they're everywhere. But you can see this one, he was pretty close to me, just kind of again showing the detail, you know, that you can get out of these, not just at the 2.5x obviously, but as you zoom, how much detail you're able to pull in and can kind of see what's going on there. Again, really get a little shaky when you get up in that magnification. It's hard to hold them things still. But here, this is the same raccoon. He had started working away from us, and I just wanted to kind of show the detail at the different distances as he moves up through there and show kind of how the rangefinder works. And once he got up, crowned on the top of this hill, there was a big old hoot owl sitting on the ground up there. A lot of time, until I got into the thermal stuff, I never realized that them hoot owls will sit on the ground like that, you know, looking for stuff. But it's not uncommon to see them hoot owls down on the ground. Actually, you know, they sit down in there and wait, I guess, for field mice and stuff like that to move in around on the ground, then they'll swoop in on them. But that'll be coming up here in a minute. But as you can see, the rangefinder's working really good. There at 100 yards, still no problem at all making definition. There's that hoot owl I was telling you about, how he's going to come down here and land again on the ground. There was a couple of deer in there. Then we're back. By that time, that raccoon had moved a couple 100 yards back. Here, just a local factor. I just was kind of showing you in a high contrast area how much detail these things are capable of rendering. You know, there's a rail yard there. I believe there's a car comes down the road here in a minute. You can see that train kind of moving up in through there. But in these situations where you have high thermal contrast, in other words, you have a lot of span between your hot and cold objects, the detail that these things can render would just blow your mind. Some of the distances that you can see things. Here was another use that I think would be phenomenal for these binoculars, is in for guys that boat quite a bit. This is down on the Mississippi River, and you see that barge. Now, these were taken up on a bluff, and some of these objects out here are literally over a mile away. I mean, you can see there's some boats down there, and you can see the marker buoys. And here I was kind of adjusting through the modes, the normal, high, and ultra mode, to kind of, you can see what effect changing those mode algorithms has on the gradient. You know, I think it kind of expands and contracts the gradient, or takes the higher percentage of temperature and scrunches it up a little bit in some cases, but it can have a pretty good effect on your image if you get into the right backgrounds. Here we've got some deer. One of the things that I thought was really cool in this is that deer had just gotten up there, and you can clearly see that heat signal on the ground where she had been laying. I seen, as I watched these deer, them deer were at just about exactly, I think, 200 yards, maybe just a hair over it, and I thought it was just phenomenal that the sensitivity was good enough to be able to see on the ground, you know, the marks where they had been laying after the fact. Here, this caught my eye while I was watching those deer, was another raccoon back here working inside of a tree, and I just was kind of showing. Now, this is he's actually in the tree line quite a ways behind those deer, so this would have been more like about 300, like right at 300 yards back to where he's at on that tree line. But he's inside of that tree line just a little bit, so it's pretty phenomenal how that's able to capture that heat signal from that distance. You know, in thermal, one of the things you're going to find is how easy it is to acquire targets, in the sense that the detections are just phenomenal. It's just about impossible for things to hide from it in the right conditions. And so again, here we have a deer really close up, just trying to show the clarity that these things are able to obtain when things are focused properly, when you're zooming, and the detail you can see. Honestly, if you have these focused really, really well, in the case of this, you know, you say, well, what would that be beneficial for us if you were running a herd of some kind of your own, or had some cattle, you know, potentially to check and see if they were having some kind of skin issues, or just kind of see the overall conditional health of them and things like that. But you can see the detail with which you can start to identify things when you're zoomed in to that magnification, and you start getting those distances, like say south of 100 yards. The surface conditions that you can see, or the heat signals given off, are just pretty phenomenal. Again, here just showing you, you know, the white hot versus black hot palettes, without making a lot of changes to the image, kind of what you're able to achieve with regards to the Emerger XL binoculars. The 10-24-7-68 sensor, I don't know, you know, how many times I can say it, but it's the images you're seeing here really don't do it justice in terms of how much difference there is in the eyepiece. And when I find myself when I'm zooming, like comparing to some of the older objects, is as you zoom, you think, boy, that's maybe just just not the super sharpest there ever was, but then you go and compare to the other ones and you realize how much phenomenally better it has gotten. This was something that was just kind of unique. I threw this in just because it was unique and I happened to get it on film. This was an osprey back at my pond coming down there, and I thought it was pretty unique when he hit that water and the water splashed on him, how much darker that turned around and changed him that quick. And you can see there where he dove down and got a fish, and the resolution again is just outstanding. But you know, if you're interested in a set of these, they're definitely impressive. Well, I hope you found that informative. This is June 2023. These are just coming out. They're $79, $99, $97, so basically $8,000. You know, not for the faint of heart, but I will tell you this: if you're looking for a serious set of binoculars, you're going to get low eye fatigue and the best image of anything you're going to take a look at out of these currently. So, you know, I realize that who knows what the future will bring, but at this moment in time, this is as good as it's going to get. If you're interested in this or any of the other Pulsar or Sightmark products, feel free to check them out on our website, www.foxoptic.com, or give me a call anytime, toll free, 877-806-2977. Thanks for watching and have a great day.